Hello there, Comic Clan, and welcome to Comics and the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. Thank you for joining us for episode 6 of our podcast. And I'm honestly so hyped for this one today. I have been talking about it for weeks now. Of course, as always, I have above my right shoulder, I always get these sides mixed up on screen, I have my co-host, Nitro, who is always with us. Shout out to the people, Nitro.
What's up?
And then, of course, we have our special guest for today, Louis Southard, author of the new Villain Seeking Hero comic that dropped a couple of weeks ago now on Comixology, I believe it is.
You got it right.
We are so excited to have you on the stream. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
Joining, dude.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor. I don't know. I just love doing podcasts, and I'm so happy that you invited me.
We love doing podcasts as well. That's why we do them pretty much every week now. But yeah, this is so excited to have you on here. The chance to just talk about this. Honestly, this amazing book. I've been reading it for since I picked it up when it first dropped. I just fell in love with these characters. I'm excited for the story, and I'm excited to get into just discussing it with you.
Well, I'm happy to share any secrets I can.
Definitely hold you to that as the podcast goes on. So first let's do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, I want to give a shout out to our amazing sponsor. Hey, thank you, Ads, for the host. That is absolutely awesome, man. Thank you for hosting the stream. Glad you could be with us. We want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Gamer Grind Co., the #1 coffee for gamers. # on that grind. And also, I don't think we actually mentioned it last week, Nitro, but we actually became influencers with them, which means we can
tell me about that.
Which means we can actually bring savings to you guys. I'm going to throw it up in the chat, the link for them.
So it's coffee for gamers?
Yep, that's their thing, the #1 coffee for gamers. So all their coffees are named like after gaming things like Killshot and Checkpoint and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. Because when I find myself playing games, I really wish I could have some good coffee with it. And I think you've just answered all my problems.
There you go, man. There you go.
Oh my God, jeez.
And as you can see, as I've thrown up in the chat there, also now that we are influencers, if you use the code Comics and the Cross, just the same as the channel name, you actually get to save 5% on any order there. And while you're there, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and pick up a Comics and the Cross coffee mug and sticker, which is available in their team store.
Just saying.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. If you want to pick that up.
So we could get 5% off and a mug.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We don't do it by halves here, man. We go all the way out,
No, I'm really glad I came onto the podcast.
There you go.
I'm leaving with a few things extra,
There you go, man. Get a coffee mug, get a sticker, get good coffee. Like I legitimately, and it's like I try to do this on stream. I don't want to be sponsored by someone who I legitimately don't like the product.
Oh, that's good.
I literally can't drink other coffees. I tried to drink another coffee after the first bag they sent me out, and it tasted just so weak and just didn't have any flavor to it. Like, I think I'm literally addicted to Gamer Grind coffee now. Like, honestly, I love it. And yeah, I honestly recommend this stuff to anybody. So yeah, go ahead and you've got a friend there, Nitro. I think Lily just wants to be part of the podcast because that's 2 weeks in a row she's decided to pop in.
She heard about these great deals. She wants to get in on this.
Yeah, that's it, man. She wants the coffee.
Dang it.
Yeah, she wants coffee, man. So also a special shout out. We are now, of course, Twitch affiliate, as we, of course, celebrated last week. Thank you for everyone that helped us reach that. You can support the channel by subscribing. You can do that either with one of 3 tier options or with Amazon Prime. You can do that for absolutely free. Or if you want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon, which I'm going to throw in the link as well. Obviously, I say this just to let people know it's out there. As I say every week, this is not you have to do this thing. I understand people are in financial strain right now with everything that's going on around the world. You not being on our Patreon and you not subscribing is not a big deal. We are still going to do this regardless. We love doing this podcast. But if you want to help us be able to expand the podcast and do some more stuff, and you can do it even on Patreon. You can do it for as low as, I think our lowest tier is $2. So
we like doing this stuff. It just helps us do more. So
yeah, it just helps us upgrade our equipment. It helps us upgrade what we're capable of doing and be able to do more streams. And obviously, we love connecting with you guys and want to do that. So yeah, just want to throw that out there to everyone, just so it's aware. All right, so I thought before we delve into some some deep conversation on villain seeking hero, because literally once we start talking on that, I know we're not going to stop. So I want to like just help everyone relax into the environment. So I thought a nice little icebreaker is going to be literally trending on Twitter this morning, and I don't even know what started it. It literally came out of nowhere. Like, I saw Loki trending,
Okay.
and I thought maybe it's about the new show, maybe it's something like that. No, someone started a conversation of, within the MCU, who would win a fight, Loki or Killmonger? So
You wanna
Loki,
give your opinion first?
I kind of want to give it, but I don't. But it's like I don't think it's a fight really. Like
No,
it's got to be
It's not-
Loki,
no.
man. It's got to be Loki. It's like
Loki would absolutely
he's
disappoint him.
he's legitimately a god.
Yeah, I mean, Killmonger's a soldier. He's a trained, mercenary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Loki is the god of lies and trickery.
Right?
He led an entire alien army to invade New York.
Yeah, like I
sort of
just
thing.
don't see it
Killmonger's
being
got
that.
some training, and he's got a sweet suit. That's about it.
Yeah, he's got a vibranium suit, but I'm like,
Yeah.
but like the amount of stuff that Loki can do, like, and the thing that everyone was using in the argument for like Killmonger could win was literally the scene from Avengers where Hulk starts smashing Loki like off the ground in Stark Tower, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the Hulk.
Yeah.
That's
Killmonger's not the Hulk.
that's not Killmonger, you know? It's like that's not
No.
him.
It's like that's an entire powerhouse going on to like this scrawny guy. Like that's just overwhelming him all at once. This is
Yeah, Loki has magic too. Like, I mean, that's not happening.
Yeah, it's like it's not going to happen because I mean, like, the Hulk being on that level would literally be
Listen, hold up. I
Oh.
just thought of something. You know what Killmonger has that Loki doesn't?
okay. Well,
What?
He would win
Heart.
because he has heart and soul, and he put all his might into the fight. And in the last second, when all hope is lost, then he'd find a little bit more strength inside,
And then
come
Captain
out on
Planet
top.
comes in.
Yeah. And then everyone holds hands, and everyone's hearts grow 3 times larger that day.
And they save
they win.
Whoville.
And they say Whoville.
oh, there you go.
Wow,
Ads.
now that's a good story. Jeez.
That's a fantastic story.
Yeah, ads in our chat is saying, yeah, Loki banished Odin. That kind of proves how powerful he is. Like, yeah, like in the MCU, Loki
Yeah,
banished Odin to Earth, so it's like, yeah, we kind of got a power level there. So, the more interesting fight I thought was like somebody literally had it on Twitter of like, let's not talk about Loki versus Killmonger. Let's somebody talk about Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes versus Killmonger.
No, I can see that.
Now that's a fight I want to see.
That's just 2 super soldiers going at it. You know, you can see that going on for a little bit.
I can definitely see that. Yeah, because you have, obviously, Bucky's a super soldier, but he also has a sweet arm, cybernetic arm.
Yeah.
But this is what I was saying.
Which
So
arm does he
Killmonger-
have, though?
What's that?
Which arm does he have, though? The vibranium one or the
Oh.
Russian one?
Good
Oh,
good
that's
point.
true.
That's a good point actually. Is it like,
Here's another thing though. So Killmonger, what is he like in his 30s? Let's just be generous and say he's in his mid 30s, right?
Okay.
So he has maybe 15 years of experience, like military wise. You have Bucky, who doesn't really age, and he's been doing stuff for like decades. So he has decades of espionage experience, and he has a metal arm, and he's a super soldier. I'm gonna go with Winter Soldier on this one.
Does the heart and soul come into play with this fight, or?
Sorry, Whoville is out of the question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Then it's Winter Soldier.
you're all about the heart and soul, man. But that brings up the interesting point though, because it's like, you know, it's like he's a super soldier, so Winter Soldier should really take this. I mean, this guy's meant to be in the level of Captain America, but at the same time, we've seen Killmonger take out T'Challa in the Black Panther movie, a guy who is basically been said is on the level of Captain America, speed, strength, agility, all of that, and I'm like, we have seen him do that, so it could be possible, especially if it is the original arm that the Winter Soldier has and not his new vibranium one.
If we think about Civil War, like T'Challa pretty much beat him up, Winter Soldier, and if Killmonger beat T'Challa up, you know, use the transitive property there, one could argue that Killmonger could beat up Winter Soldier. But then again, when he did fight Black Panther, that was supposed to be an honor-bound fight of sorts.
Yeah.
For the role of King.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, but maybe if that's an honor-bound fight, there are rules. But if it's a street fight, he could do anything. So
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
there's a whole lot of variables too. Like, how long has he been taking the herb? I forgot what the herb was called. How long has Killmonger been taking that herb, or is he currently on it? You know, I don't know.
Well, he beat him up without the herb.
That is
Yeah,
true.
that's
That
true.
is true.
Before he even started taking it, yeah. I think I've got to say, like, if I was picking one of the two, I would have to say my money's on Bucky. I'm going to have to go Winter Soldier. I think just the experience of him would just outlast it, especially if he had a cause to fight for. When Winter Soldier's got a cause to fight for, he's got that Captain America-esque heart of, like, he will not stop. Like, if you're talking, like, Winter Soldier as he is, like after he's obviously been decoded and stuff like that, and not just, hey, go kill him. But, like, yeah, I've got to give it to Bucky.
Does he have heart though? Like, does he have? I don't think he has Captain America's spirit. I think in Infinity War, like when he's just chilling out in the middle of Wakanda, and then Black Panther shows up with the new arm, he's like, what are we doing? Like,
It's like, all right.
He's got heart. He had enough heart to gun down an alien invasion that was attacking Wakanda while spinning around holding a raccoon.
How dare you interrupt my one-arm hay bale throwing?
Yeah, but like, does he want to do that, or is like my best friend needs my help? I guess I gotta throw him a bone here.
Maybe, but I guess at that point in your life, that is, it's the only path really left to him at this point, isn't it?
I guess.
Been an assassin for so many years, and now living one-armed in Wakanda, doing whatever the heck he was doing, when
he's just chilling.
just hanging out, just chilling in Wakanda, and like, yeah, do you want to come have a fight? Okay.
That's why I'm excited for the show.
Not to belabor the point, but going back to the Loki thing, like, didn't Loki go one-on-one with Thor? I know he lost, but he still went one-on-one with him.
Yeah.
For like a couple minutes. It wasn't like a 5-second fight.
In which one? The original.
It was in in Thor.
Yeah, in the original Thor, they fight on the bridge. I completely blanked.
Yeah,
the
the
name.
Rainbow Bridge.
Well, we've never seen. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think Thor could pretty much beat up anybody at this
Pretty
point.
much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Let's just all agree. Killmonger's a loser. Okay, and then we can all just move.
Never talk about him on this stream again.
That's right. Just
Don't say his name. It's leaving a bad taste in my mouth. I'm just sick and tired of this.
If you put him in the chat, you're unsubscribed.
No, you're not. We need subscribers. No, we take that back. But yeah, so I think pretty much Killmonger's at least in a low-key Killmonger fight, is definitely the loser, 100%. Winter Soldier, arguable either way, but yeah. Alright, so chat, by the way, throw it in for you I know ads already did, but if you think Loki would win or Killmonger would win, or Winter Soldier, Killmonger, who do you think's got those fights? Go ahead and throw it in the chat as well. So we are going to dive into actually interviewing Mr. Southard. I'm saying your last name right, Southard, right? That's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, no, you got it.
Awesome. Because I think the first time I said your name on chat, I went Louis Southard, and I'm like, that's definitely my British coming out there.
Rookie mistake. Happens to everybody.
That's definitely my Scottish in pronouncing something in a UK way coming out there when I first said it, and I heard you say it, and I'm like, oh, it's Southard. I completely butchered that name the first time I said it. Awesome.
As long as you're saying my name in one way or another, I have no problem with that.
As long as somebody's saying my name, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's better than nobody saying my name.
All right, so let's delve into some questions then. So we're obviously here to talk about Lewis's new book, Villains Seeking Hero, which I'm going to throw in chat. We've got a link that I added to take you to Comixology to go and have a look at it. I believe if you're looking for the cheapest buying option, which I know many of you are because I know I do, you can literally get issues 1 to 8 for, I think it's like $11.69 right now. Because the first volume is $5.99. That's issues 1 to 5, and then issues 6, 7, and 8 right now are still on sale at $1.99 each. So go ahead and check these books out. Whether you've wanted to read them before the podcast, you can catch up with us later here on Twitch or on YouTube if you're watching it there, or if you want to catch up after we talk about it and pick it up, it's definitely worth reading. Trust me. So
also, cool note: when I checked out the last 3 issues, 6, 7, and 8, even though they were $2 a piece, it ended up being like 5 and some change. So just heads up.
Yeah, so
cool.
So yeah, I put it up online. It was new comic book, or a free comic book day was meant to be yesterday, and if you're looking for good deals, that's about as good a deal as you can ask for. Plus, there's not really any other new comic books coming out right now, so you really have no excuse not to pick this up. And it's like, I'm glad it's coming out when there's no competition, because I'm hoping it means more people get a chance to read something they're not used to and find an amazing book, quite honestly.
Well, thank you. Me too. I certainly hope people find it, and the people who have found it, for the most part, people seem to really like it.
Yeah.
Of course, there have been people saying, "Oh, this guy's a joke," but that's the internet for you. But
that happens.
My main thought is, at least people are talking about it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I mean, how it came out now, and now is not exactly a beautiful time. But if you can get it, then great, and it's a little escapism for you, and you get a little story out of it, a new story, if you will. So,
yeah, it was really cool. I love the take on it.
Yeah, I think we were definitely both fans of it, and I'm really glad.
Should I give like a little synopsis for the?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you. So let's start off like simply. Let's tell the people about yourself a little bit, because obviously you're kind of brand new to comic book writing. This is your foot in the door for it. So let's tell people about you. You're obviously not a well-known name, although personally I do think that'll change if your writing keeps going the way it's going. I see that changing 100%. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, and a little bit about the comic, what Villain Seeking Hero is all about, and maybe even a little bit like how you came up with the idea for this. How did this story come to be?
Yeah.
So that's a Pandora's box of a question. I'm gonna say that right now.
Gonna jump in the deep end,
Okay, let's. Okay, who am I? I'm Louis Southard. I am a writer. I'm the creator of this series, Villain Seeking Hero. I've only got one other work, and believe it or not, it's a romance novel.
Oh yeah, I've got that in my questions. We're going to get to that later.
Okay. Oh, great, wonderful. I to be honest, I hate it. I hate that book so much.
I've got so many questions around that. It's like, how did you go from a novel like that to writing comic books, like especially like super villain based comic books? I'm like, we'll go into what we're talking.
You're already triggering the PTSD of me writing that.
Oh yeah, we're going to get into that before the end of this podcast today. I promise you that.
Yeah, and then this is my first comic book series, so that's pretty cool. How did this happen? Action Lab just found me in a dark alley one day, and they were like, "We'll give you a comic for a sandwich." And I was like, "You know what? It sounds like a good deal." And
fair trade.
What kind of sandwich was it? Just
Italian BMT.
Oh yeah, I'd have said yes as well.
Subway, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have said yes to that as well.
But they only gave me half the sandwich, so.
Oh man.
That's how it always goes. There's a catch. There's always a catch. Okay, let's get into the history behind this book, because there's quite a lot of backstory. So in terms of how I came up with this, the whole plot did not start all at once. If anything, it started with the characters, the main three protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
A long time ago, when I was in high school, I did a project for an art class where you had to come up with a comic book character, and this was freshman year, and I was like, okay, I'll do this, and I came up with a character called Nightman, and it was nothing, and it was perfectly like a superfluous thing that I never really thought of ever again, and I just kind of had it saved somewhere in like a sketchbook.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple years go by, and in a group of friends, we had this inside joke about some character called the Spirit King.
Nice.
Okay.
And it was just like this whole thing. We came up with this whole, not lore, but just like, it was just a running gag.
Yeah.
And one day I just kind of designed what we imagined the Spirit King would look like. And then more years pass, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a comic book. And the first two characters I make specifically for a comic book are Master Molecule and Lady Liberty. They were always the main point of the comic. The original idea was a lot different than the end result. The original idea was more so seeing like characters through the decades.
Mhm.
So, and
Okay.
kind of playing with the idea of like comics developing. So you would have like a more 50s kind of wholesome, like gee
Oh,
whiz golly
yeah.
story,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then you go into the 60s, 70s, and things like to mark the death of the Silver Age, things are getting a bit more heated and realistic. And then the book would kind of end with the 80s, which would mark like everything's dark and gritty
Yeah.
and everything's just down in the dirt, and it would sort of
That's
like
genius, actually.
that would be like the end point where that's like the biggest shift in the media, I think. Because then 90s, what are you gonna get with the 90s? Like everyone has extreme in their name, and
Neon.
they've got
A bunch of neon.
Pockets
Obviously.
everywhere.
Lots of neon,
Lots
yeah.
of pockets and
Fanny packs. Fanny packs.
exactly. But that was the original idea, and I that kind of just got lost. I wasn't exactly in love with it,
Yeah.
and as I kept trying to, I knew I wanted to make a book about with these characters, at least Master Molecule and Lady Liberty, and I was like, I don't know, there's something missing, and I just thought, well, what if he was the leader of a team, and then I just went through all my old stuff, and I'm like, okay, Spirit King, Nightman, Master Molecule, that'll be the team, and then it just kind of went from there. And then just spent a couple years just in my free time, not even really thinking of it as like a possible career sort of thing.
Mhm.
Just kind of, for fun, because it's like, oh, I'm never gonna make a comic. It's never gonna happen, but why not? Just for something to do.
Yeah.
Because I've mentioned that this is a story, the current story, Villain Seeking Hero. It's something I've entirely planned out, beginning, middle, end. So.
Oh, awesome.
put-
That was actually
like-
something I was going to ask as well. And so, like, is this there's a finale to this that or like, because I was going to ask that, is this going to be like an ongoing series, or like how many issues or how many volumes there are to this?
Yeah, I pretty much have everything outlined.
Okay, awesome.
To the point, so it would be an if things go well, it will be an ongoing series. Yeah, but it's definitely something I have every issue planned out.
That's
and
awesome.
in turn, because I personally believe that you can't. I don't like that sort of storytelling where you come up with it as you go.
Yeah.
Because I feel a lot of people lose either a lot of steam or just lose the sight of what the project is.
Yeah, a lot of times they start bending the story based off what people are wanting, or the expectations of other people. So
Yeah, I feel the modern Star Wars films is a great example of that,
Yep.
where there you can tell there was no real game plan,
yeah,
and then it kind of just, I don't know how you guys feel about those films, but
it's a mixed bag for
for
most.
me
Yeah.
personally, I just feel it kind of pitters out at the end.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, I think that was it with those. It was kind of like you had something that was so like almost like a holy grail of something, of a story that was so revered, and it's like, but you went back to the well just maybe too many times for that people kind of got fed up of it. I think there's a definite issue when it comes to certain things. At least I found, coming from Scotland, like at least in American culture with stuff, whether it's movies, comics, TV shows, like there's this thing of doing something till death until everybody gets fed up of it, and then we'll stop, rather than, like I use like great British TV shows. Like there's great British TV shows. Fawlty Towers is always the one I use. A great British comedy, and it lasted like 11 episodes, and it just never went back to it. But it is so revered and considered such a great show, and it's because they left it alone. Like it had a stopping point, and that was okay.
there's something about having just a completed story,
Mm.
because I think when we look at more mainstream comic books, there is, while they are appealing because they are some of the most iconic and famous characters, you can also see, if you read them long enough, that there's not the growth and change is very minimal in terms of what they will allow, and then you can just see them sort of spinning their wheels, and you can only see, I don't know, like I think one of the biggest changes that almost occurred was when Batman almost got married, and he was like, I haven't seen a married Batman before.
yeah.
And then they're like, well, too bad, you're not getting that. And it's like, oh, okay,
joking.
cool. Yeah,
And,
same with Superman and his son. I feel like that was one of the biggest things in a while, having John Kent Superboy.
Oh yeah, and I think they just totally ruined something amazing. They tapped into something so great with that, and then went, yeah, let's age him up.
I hate that.
I was like, why? Everybody says they love him. Why are you touching that thing? Like,
I listened to an interview with Brian Michael Bendis, and that's what he said. Like, oh, I only aged him up because nobody had done that. No, we don't know we haven't seen what that looks like. So, well, yeah, that's because we only had like this kid for 2 years.
yeah, because like because Superman hadn't had a kid before. This was new in itself. Like, you could have ran with that for years before you aged him up.
Mm-hmm.
But
same with Spider-Man. It's like,
don't even get me started in the Spider-Man thing. That's like a
the
touchy
last
point.
The last time I got really jazzed over a Spider-Man story was Superior Spider-Man. He's like, he's dead. Dr. Octopus is in his body, and now he's basically like a supervillain. So it's like, okay, I haven't seen that. Like, that's new. But to be honest, I think I'm like most people. It's like, my ideal Spider-Man is the one from Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, 100%.
That is 100% the logical.
The Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Because in the 90s, that was the idea. It was going to be Spider-Man, Mary Jane married, going to have a kid, and then they killed off the kid, and then a couple years they broke off the marriage, whatever. But if they were to continue that, that's totally what it would have been.
He's a slightly overweight, lazy, pizza-eating, middle-aged father.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, everything's ruined, and he's like, oh, am I the problem?
He wears brown trench coats. I mean, come on.
But that's what Peter Parker is. He's a screw up, and that's the appeal. But they seem adamant at keeping him forever at, let's say, I don't know, 25.
Yeah, it's like
he can't afford rent. He can't do this. He can't do that. It's like, well, I want to see him being unable to do other things.
Yeah. I mean, and that's my thing as well. I think it's actually something I've got down to eventually talk about on the podcast, like as a whole show.
I'm sure
is a question of like, should like superhero characters, like especially in Marvel and DC, should they finish? Like, should like Captain America, like back in the Marvel now when he got like depowered and we got like Sam Wilson as Captain America, should that have been just where we went? Should we ever brought Steve Rogers back? Should that have been the end of his story and moving forward? Spider-Man and Mary Jane getting married and having their kid and like, go off into the sunset, and Miles becomes the official only Spider-Man. Like, should we end stories? And like, because if you ever want to go back and read them, you can go back and read them. Those stories are still there.
Yeah.
But to tell new stuff and new characters rather than like, rebooting the universe like 5 times, and I think DC's done it like 2 or 3 times within a matter of years. It's like,
we're running out of ideas. Let's reboot.
I wouldn't advocate that in terms of, because realistically they'll never do that. You can't. They're not going to get rid of these characters. They're just such big IPs. But I feel what's often missing from a lot of comics is growth. And I feel for readers, watching your character grow up or just evolve, change, it's one of the most rewarding things. It's character development. That's like one of the best examples is probably Dick Grayson. Like, you watch Robin grow up from being like the kid sidekick to being his own superhero, and not just a superhero, but being like one in the universe everybody respects. This guy's all right, and he surpasses Batman and that sort of thing. He's better than Batman on a like human level, I suppose. He got to be the Batman wishes he could be, in a way, where he's like, he actually has joy in his life.
Yeah, well, that's it. He kind of like he can do all the stuff Batman does, and there's also the emotionally stable one that can, have a normal life as well to a certain extent. But yeah, I would actually agree. He's a perfect example.
I think just based on this conversation, one of the peaks of DC, at least in Batman, when Dick Grayson was Batman and it was Damian Wayne Robin.
100%.
I love that, because that's the story of Batman Bruce Wayne. He's the human of the Justice League. He's just the dude. He's just a guy. And how's that story going to end? He's got to die. And that's the logical endpoint, because I don't like where he is now in comics, like with Dark Knight's Metal.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, he's the center of the universe, and there's the Bat God, and then there's the 7 evil Batmen. and then they're all gotta fight, and it's like, okay, I remember when he was just like a dude in a costume, just like hovering in the dark in an office, like looking at files, like just a detective.
Yeah,
He's just. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say it's kind of funny that you talk about like the Damien, the Dick Grayson Damian Wayne dynamic. It's such a great dynamic, but I always find that
right.
funny that that Grant Morrison was the one that brought that onto the scene, and then he was also the one though that had like Bruce Wayne being this like, if he has enough prep time, he can beat anybody.
Yeah.
No.
He started that with Justice League.
Yeah, he started that in his JLA, and I love the fact that then all of a sudden he was the one that ended up ushering in or helping usher in the Dick Grayson Batman and just taking that other era. But like I think that was like a great era for it. Also, you got to have who was the happy-go-lucky kind of Robin character as now this kind of happy-go-lucky Batman with a small angry Robin who was basically just like his dad. It was a complete flip in the dynamics as well, which is just awesome.
Yeah, well, that's something new. We haven't seen that really. And that's why I think a lot of people, that really resonated with a lot of people. And of course, went back to the status quo. But that's one of those moments. Like you could see they had something, and then they lost it in favor of just going back to normal.
Yeah, because they even tried to like keep it going a little bit, like because eventually Bruce Wayne came back, but then he ended up doing like the whole Batman Incorporated thing, and we still had Dick Grayson as Batman for a little bit.
Yeah, they did that in Black Mirror.
And it was like, oh yeah, absolutely love that book as well. Black Mirror is so good. But it was one of those things like, okay, so we are going a new direction. So Bruce Wayne's back, but he's not picking up the Batmantle. And then they went, oh no, we're doing New 52. Screw that. Like, it's like, okay.
But the thing is with New 52, they continued Batman Incorporated. Because they're like, no, Grant Morrison's like, what? You rebooted the universe? No. And then he just kept writing like nothing had happened.
Yeah, it's like they rebooted the universe, except for the fact of that you had Batman didn't change and Green Lantern didn't change because Jeff Johns was writing that at the time. Everything else changed. It was like, okay, why are those histories not changed? Oh no, sorry, they did change something of Batman's. Tim Drake was never a Robin.
Oh right, he was always Red Robin.
I'm like, no, I've never hated a change in a book more than that. I love Tim Drake. I'm like, don't do that to him. He was the third Robin. He's the best Robin. Like, I love Dick Grayson, but I love him as Nightwing. Tim Drake is the best Robin, 100%. And the fact they took that away, I always hated that.
So was that, not to derail the convo, but was that part of, so when you were thinking about doing the comic, was that like...
Oh yeah, we were talking about your comic, sorry. I went in
a
total tangent.
It's fine, it's fine. This is what being a comic book fan is all about. You just get lost in these sort of...
That's literally what we do every week in our podcast. We get a topic and we just ramble for an hour and a half, and apparently people like watching it, so... just before you ask your...
stepping in across the shoes right now and redirecting the convo.
Yeah, but thank you.
Actually normally does that.
But before you jump into that, Nitro, let me just give a shout out. Thank you to Sanchez, John. I'm doing good, man. Thank you for coming and joining us. Just shout out in the chat. Thank you for coming and being part of the interview. And anyone that's watching the chat as well, if you've got any questions you want to ask Louis about his book, about being a comic book writer, whatever, just throw it in the chat and we'll just randomly throw them at him at some point during the show. So go for Nitro.
So Louis, so back to what we were talking about earlier. So you went on a thing talking about how the most important thing for you in comics is just showing the growth in characters. So when you approached this comic, was that like the main like foundation that you wanted for the characters for the series? It's like you want to show that growth.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
The main thing with this comic, and you guys have both read it, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. When we start in issue 1, it's not an origin story. It's not. There's no real beginning. Yeah. It's in the sense that you have just entered this world at a certain point in time.
I love how you just jump right into it from the very first panel.
Yeah.
Thank you. You just jump right in, and the more you read, the more you get little snippets of information. You get to figure out you get an idea of who these characters are, just on a very surface level.
Yeah.
And then the more you read, that is when you get to see who they actually are. I imagine. At least in these first couple of issues, you get more on Master Molecule, the protagonist, if anything. But the idea is with all these characters, they are at a certain point in their life, and the whole point of this story is to watch them grow in the sense of like why are they here, like why how did they end up at this point, why are they supervillains, to use the comic book term, like what is their origin story, like what led them to this point. And I think it's way more interesting to learn the reasoning and origins as you go along, as opposed to just being given it to you right out the gate.
Yeah, just like a natural part of the storytelling process, like throughout the story, like let the story tell itself.
Because I enjoy when you have, like with these first couple of issues, I'd argue with Master Molecule, this is what happens. You have an idea, like issues 1 through 7, let's say that. It's like you read him, and it's like, okay, I get what this guy's about. Yeah. And then when we get to issue 8, dude, something happens, and then it's like, okay, wait, what is this guy's deal? Like, dude, what's going on?
The last 3 pages, and just FYI, we're not going to give any spoilers at the moment for anyone listening. So if you do get a chance, please go out and get this, so you can discover that for yourselves.
Yeah,
maybe we might get into some spoilers, but right now we're going to try to keep it spoiler free.
Yeah, we'll do a spoiler warning section when we actually delve a bit more into the book if we've got time. We'll try and keep it as free now, so you can go and read it yourself. Because trust me, you want to read it, firsthand.
But I will say the last 3 pages blew my mind. I was like, dude, this is freaking awesome.
I appreciate that. Like that was I pushed for the publisher because originally the idea was for the digital releases they were gonna just do just volume 1. And I was talking to my editor. I'm like, listen, like if you want to get all these issues out, if you want to give a good first impression, I got the other 3 issues of volume 2 ready. And I think if we put it all together, it's going to show people give an idea of what this story is. If it's not what you think.
Even though they're part of 2 different volumes, I feel like that's a complete story. That arc is like from beginning to end. But obviously it's still going to
climax. Like that's the first big thing to happen.
Yeah, because I was honestly shocked when you posted, and because you'd posted about first volume coming out. I thought that was great, and then you started posting the first half of volume 2 was coming out. And I remember thinking that's really random that you're bringing out 3 issues of the second volume. Wouldn't you bring out a whole second volume? Wouldn't you stop at the first volume, and then when you read those 3 issues, you're like, okay, this makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but it was just happenstance. It was just the right time. Everything kind of clicked, and I'm happy it did work the way it did, because that's the one thing everybody agrees upon, that big reveal. Yeah, and everyone's did not see that coming. But what I enjoy, there's setup to it, because I think in issue 4, I don't want to spoil it just now, but when the 2 characters interact in issue 4, their dialogue, they have information that you wouldn't expect them to have.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I kind of called it during that issue 4. Really? I kind of thought, not to the extent that we find out. Obviously, we're going to this more in the spoilers. I didn't expect that massive reveal of it, but I kind of I saw the hint that that's the direction we were going with it, and then we got to the end of issue 8, and I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
It's it was really well done. I think that's the thing as well, getting to the end of issue 8 and having that reveal. I'm like, it's a great climax point, because I want to read issue 9 now. Okay, I need to know more about this. I need to know how this happened, because it's not your.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just because it's not your typical direction I expected the story to go. So I'm like, okay, I need to see how this got to be now.
Yeah.
Right. The rest of volume 2, where we're currently working on that, we just have 1 left. The artist Kyle Petchuk, he's currently doing his pencils and inks. And then as soon as Action Lab gets back in order, we'll be able to get those out. So, and then we'll have the completed second volume. But the way that's going to go, issue 9, it's going to be the moment after. It's directly following up from that. And then issue 10 is a day in the life. It's called Our Alter Egos. So you get to see the 2 characters just when they're not, in their costumes.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen yet, especially with the main character in question. And then the final one is another documenter issue. And to explain the documenter, it's basically my form of the Watcher, if anything, where it's just this is omniscient, omniscient entity that sort of is my writing device to just share stories regarding supporting characters.
I gotta say that was probably one of my favorite issues, because just the non-linear storytelling of that specific issue I really liked, and it was very funny.
Oh, I'm glad. The fun with that with the document or doc, I like the humor for me is because I try to write her to be a bit unhinged, given that she's been isolated for God knows how long, and with the point of the story, like the story that she tells is a very horrific ending, but she
talks about it so casually.
She talks about it. Well, my idea is if you were like this Watcher-esque character, there's somebody who's watched every like reality for as long as it's been around.
Yeah.
You would just be so desensitized to anything.
Oh yeah.
And the other idea is because she doesn't really have any real social cues, one of the big punchlines is that she gets the wrong lesson out of the story. Where she's like, oh, and keeping secrets is a bond of friendship, and we're all together, and that's beautiful. I wish I could have a friend, and it would be wonderful. But
I think part of that issue is some of the reveals of some of the superhero team. It was hilarious. I think Captain Imagination was probably my favorite.
Really?
Because it was like I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, but
no, that's not a spoiler.
She's sitting at the table and she's just staring there, and then the next panel is that it's the jewel, it's the green jewel, and then it cuts back to her and back to the jewel and then back to her, and she goes, "All right, I'll do it." the next scene, she's a superhero.
Yeah, I love it because I think it's what makes that even more of a punchy point is the fact of like you get these almost like over the top epic like origin stories prior to it.
Yeah.
And then hers is literally just sitting talking to a jewel, and I'm like, that is awesome. Yeah. It's just so well done.
I can't spoil that, but just a little thing to watch out for. In issue,
you can spoil it if you want. We won't tell anyone.
It's not a spoiler, but it's more like a little hint to watch out for. In issue 3, Nightman takes the jewel. So
I was wondering what happened to that.
Yeah,
I missed that.
Into his pocket. So
okay, that's good.
I need to go back and look at that then. I missed that one.
The one that people seem to like the most is the Aquaticus one, where it's just
that was hilarious too.
It was like, well, what is his origin story? It's like, oh yeah, he just left the ocean. That's it.
And I was like, he's already wearing clothes.
Yeah, there's like no explanation for it. He's just sitting there and then just goes like, okay.
You got a humanoid shark sitting at the bottom of the ocean. He's already in a jumpsuit. He's like, I'm just gonna go be a superhero.
Exactly. He's all ready. Yeah. And then the others are a bit more traditional. Like the whole point of that for the context of the viewers, these are members of the antagonists in Volume 1, a team called the Super Society. And I know this. You could not tell in a million years, but believe it or not, there's supposed to be a joke of the Justice League, and I can't imagine how anyone could see that. I really can't.
It was so well hidden.
I really like lots of subtext going on. You know, like just my craft as a writer. You know, it's just whatever. But that was kind of like the main. Okay, let's go into what the Volume 1 is, and it's basically. Well, hey, how long are we in? Because it's like now here's the synopsis of what the story is.
We're about 45 minutes in, which is about how long it takes us to get started. So don't worry about it.
Okay, perfect. 'Cause it centers around the character known as Master Molecule, and he's basically he's just this middle-aged supervillain who is in a downward spiral professionally, and he works as a part of this large villain union of sorts that basically handles like rogues gallery designation, and just like they tell you what type of villain you could be, like, oh, you could either be a solo villain or a team villain, and he has been demoted to becoming the leader of a new team called the Frightening Five, and he goes to meet his team, and as opposed to there being 5 members, there's only 3, himself included. It's him, the self-proclaimed god of the spirit world, a gentleman by the name of Spirit King, and then a mute muscle man of mystery, aka Nightman.
Can I just say I love that reveal in like the issue as well, like when he's given this big impassioned speech when he's told he's going to be leading this team, and then it just turns to the crowd, he's like, where are the rest of them? Like, it's just us.
And
it's
the next panel, he's frustrated and he just holds his finger up, and then the next panel he's going off with the that guy, I forgot what's his name,
Blacksmith.
Yeah, that's it. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm glad that's one thing that seems to be hitting with a lot of people. People are getting the humor, which is good.
Which I've got to say,
my nickname for Spirit King was Mr. God. That was hilarious.
Mr. God. Which I do have to say that for anyone who's watching, like, yeah, Louis, you totally capture a great comedic tone in the book, which is really hard to do for a comic book. Like, comic books, like, actually being like properly funny and keeping that comedic tone is something that's really difficult. But you honestly have captured it. Like, within those first 8 issues of such a great tone. It's like
thank you. Like, I don't know. I always, with what the story is and what it's going to be, I feel that having a more comedic, not lighthearted, but just almost silly, absurdist tone to it makes it. It's going to make the serious moments a bit more impactful, if you will. Like with issue 8, like. Not to harp back on that. Hey, listeners, like, we keep talking about issue 8, maybe check it out. But like, what happens in issue 8 with that ending, like that is it's serious. It's like it's a serious idea of sorts.
Oh yeah, it's like I think that's the great stuff about the stuff even from the whole of Volume 2 is like there's a lot of comedy within like issue 6, 7, and 8, but you also get a lot of serious moments because we really start to find out more about Master Molecule in those issues and a bit more about his personality and his character and his connections, obviously with the big reveal that's in issue 8, and then the friendship with Skull Commander.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
with Skull Commander. It's like I kept questioning myself on that because his organization's called Skull as well, and I'm like, is he Skull Commander or am I just like duplicating that words from?
No, you got it. Okay, so like let's just sum it up before we get into volume 2.
Volume 1. I'm sorry, I keep going into tangents. Finish the sum up, absolutely.
Very well, but volume 1 is just I always imagine volume 1 as a welcome to the world, a pilot of sorts. You read it, you get a full story out of it, and it gives you an idea of the rules and the characters and just kind of, as I implied, like the world of what this place is.
Yeah. And
then when volume 2 just starts at the end of another story. In case you picked up on it, like. The issue 6, it's all a red herring, because the cover, the synopsis, because it's hyping it up to be like this big space epic, where it's like, Master Molecule, Spirit King, and Nightman are going to steal the moon, and only one guy can stop them. And then when we start the story, it's at the end of that story, like they're done, they did that adventure. It's like, well, what are we gonna do? It's like, well, let's go eat, and they go to, and then the rest of the issue is like, well, let's just go to like McDonald's.
Yeah, I love that literally kicks off with just Master Molecule sitting on the moon, staring at Earth.
That was one of the big things, like, that was one of the big things I really wanted. Just like this nice, quiet moment of just this guy, because it's so absurd. It's just this guy in a spacesuit staring at Earth, it's this once in a lifetime moment of being on the moon. And just having like this beautiful moment of staring at the blue marble from this wonderful angle, and all he could do is just think about himself, like, why does everything bad happen to me? And like, but that's the whole point of the story, is like they do all this crazy stuff, but to them it's just a day at the office.
Yeah.
And like, so they're still dealing with their whatever they're dealing with. And that's what they're focused on, like human beings. You just you have work, and then what about my life, like my personal life? Got to juggle everything. And then volume 2, at least the volume 2 is called Friends, Family, and Other Problems, and I'd argue that the first 3 issues are definitely the friends part, and then the next 3 issues are definitely the family part. So that's gonna be your whole thing.
Awesome.
And then volume 2, the antagonist there is Skull Commander and his skeleton crew, consisting of his girlfriend, the Duchess, Spectro, the ghost in the robot, and then 2 others. scientist and just a big guy, because of course. And then that whole thing, that's just like too. I like Volume 2 a lot. At least that whole like aspect of it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, like, I just absolutely love Skull Commander. I think he's such a great character, and it's like just his whole team, his whole setup, and then finding out there's a history between him and Master Molecule, and going into that, I'm like, I'm so up for that. That was just so much fun.
Oh. Yeah,
Oh, really? We're having technical issues. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, is everything all right?
The connection was a bit laggy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the screen started jumping a little bit, and so I think
what you said real quick.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I absolutely love Skull Commander. I love that whole setup he's got with Skull and with his crew, and just finding out that relationship and connection to Master Molecule. Just everything about that in those issues is so much fun. I just think he's such a fun character.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with that, it's once again, it's this grandiose setting. Like, it's this guy, it's a living skeleton who is in charge of his own organization, and that is very much based on like Cobra from the G.I. Joe cartoon.
Yeah, I kind of got that. I think the Duchess gave that one away for me, especially. Like, it's Skull Commander
would have been the obvious one, because like, you know, Cobra Commander. And then, because he, like, the idea with him was he was an amalgam of like the biggest '80s cartoon villains, Skeletor and Cobra
Commander. Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, that's awesome.
And here, this is for the viewers at home. In case if you ever make a comic, the best thing you could do is just put stuff you like in it. Like, that's all you can do.
Yeah,
that's all I do. It's just like, oh, I just want to see this, and I was like, there it is. And then that's just part of the fun. But that whole thing, once again, it's this whole grandiose setting. It's this living skeleton in charge of an entire villain organization, and they live out in a giant kind of like flying headquarters over the city, and it's this whole big thing. But the drama of the issue is, like, he wants to just reconnect with his old friend.
Yeah, that I found that part hilarious, because he kept talking about how he wanted to be his friend, and he's just like mastermind supervillain, and he just wanted a friend, man. He just wants a friend.
Yeah, because he's a supervillain, you know, you get to take it to those extremes where, okay, I want to get Master Molecule back in my life. What do I do? Well, he has these new guys in his life. I got to get rid of him. We'll just kill him. Like, and then that's it. Because then he'll have me, and then that'll be fine. And then, you know, then it kicks off into issue 8, where oversight is the enemy to all men.
Oh yeah, I love that reveal. We won't go into the spoilers of that just quite yet, but like the reveal when, you know, he's like, he thinks, I've gotten rid of them, I'm going to be just you and me again. It's like, and Master Molecule just kind of goes and just starts bursting out laughing in his face. Just that kind of big reveal is like just absolutely awesome. Oh.
It's a little laggy again.
Yeah, we're lagging a bit. It's all right.
I think it's better.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
I will say there was. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Louis. There was a couple points where I like audibly laughed out loud. And
okay, please tell me.
Yeah. One of them was when I forgot what the superhero group. I forgot what their name was again.
The Super Society.
That's right, Super Society. When they, well, I don't want to spoil anything.
Should we just go into spoilers? Let's like jump right into it.
Yeah, so anyone that's in chat right now, we're gonna go into full blown spoilers for the first 8 issues of Villain Seeking Hero. We're probably gonna touch on a lot of stuff because there's really not much more we can say without actually saying what goes on in the books. If you want to read this firsthand, I'll throw it into chat again. I'll throw the link for the Comixology page.
If you want to feel what we've all felt here, like if you want to just like get the impacts the way they were intended.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right here.
And like I said, it's like less than $12. Like less than $12.
Go read it, and then come back, and then you can listen to the conversation again.
Yeah, I mean,
so spoilers in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're good to go.
All right, there we go. We're done. We're going into full spoiler territory. So Nitro,
All right.
you go for it. You're going to tell them the bits
Yeah.
that made you laugh out loud. Go for it, man.
So one of the ones that popped into my brain was when the Super Society, when they tracked them down at their lair, the evil superhero lair, and it was is it Kahima?
Kaihama.
Kahima, all right. So she's obviously the leader, or she's leading them, and she's talking, and she's like, "Who leads you?" And Master Molecule goes, "I do." And then she just proceeds to tell him what she's gonna do with her sword to him. And the next frame is him like all the way in the distance, like in the doorway. That was hilarious.
That was a good because I wanted that to be good juxtaposition between leaders.
Yeah.
Because Kayama is supposed to be like this very like strong, like determined, confident, competent leader.
Yeah.
As opposed to Master Molecule is just like, F this, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I like how you made him. He seems like a doofus, but like he can still get things done, like if he has to. Like
I think
he can
he's
still.
scrappy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I think you kind of see that like when him and Kahima kind of like finally face off, like at the end of that, like when the two of them are face to face and he's like even tied to the chair and stuff. It's like you see that he is actually really capable.
Yeah.
Although obviously not amazingly capable because he's lost up to this point in his life. But like he's not just a nobody. He can at least put up a fight.
Yeah.
We have to imagine because in the context of the universe, he's been a supervillain for about 20 years.
Yeah.
So he must have had a couple of wins every now and then. And it's the other argument is like, if he's been doing this for 20 years, he must have been doing something right to the point like he's still alive and still like functioning. Like he knows what he's doing, which is kind of like where the drama with the other characters come in, because the other characters, especially the Spirit King, they're just kind of loose with what they're doing, which is incites all the conflict.
I love the fact that there's like, so on the surface you have superheroes and you have supervillains, but like it goes deeper than that, because within the supervillain community it's like almost like political factions. Like you have the one that Master Molecule is a part of first, that it's a very authoritative and this is how we're gonna do it, and then like the skull guy, it's hilarious, it's brilliant, I love that. And they approach two totally separate ways.
What's it? Yeah, because he wanted the more laissez-faire system of just like, well, let's just be evil and do whatever.
Yeah.
What's a real shame, I never got to include what Skull stood for, because it's an anagram for something.
Yeah, I was going to ask because like it never gets mentioned. It's like, and it's clearly like SKULL.
It's Supervillains / Killers Union Limited Liability.
I love it.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
And I'm gonna include it down the road, but it's just a sneak peek here. You got it. Because I wanted, because the idea with Volume 2, it's supposed to be when you run into that old friend that's clearly done better than you.
Yeah.
And that's what Skull Commander is, because he has his own organization, he has his own clique, and seemingly he's in a relationship with someone who likes him in the form of the Duchess. And because Master Molecule, now that we're going into spoilers, like there's little points all throughout where he lies about his life.
Yeah.
Because they talk about like, oh, are you in a relationship? He's like, no, I'm still single.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. So it's like he meets this guy, and he's clearly done better. He has his whole organization. He's the commander of it all, and it all boils down to the more human element of. But Skull Commander is still, there's something in him, I guess, where he's just petty, or like he just isn't in control of how he's feeling or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he can't let go that, in lack of a better term, that Master Molecule is the one thing that's like he's the one that got away.
Yeah.
He's my friend.
Emotionally insecure.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that he just like breaks down, like, because you obviously see the story beforehand, like when they used to be partners, and he's like, come with me, and he says, no, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And then just when he breaks down, like offering it to him again, the Master Molecule's like, no, I'm not going to join you.
You're never going to get a second chance. And then the next panel, he's giving him a second chance. That was hilarious.
Yeah. And it's like, and then I just love that Skull Commander just loses it at that point. Like all like composure is gone, and he's just like screaming at him. He just cannot understand why. Like, why in the world?
because you gotta imagine like being in Skull Commander's shoes. Like he's concocted this master plan, and to his knowledge, it's working. Like he's killed Spirit King and Nightman. He's under that belief, and then now like he's impressed Master Molecule with his grand show of what Skull is. It's like, well, how could he say no? Like, and it's also in his speech. He thinks Master Molecule doesn't really have anything else in his life. It's basically just calling him a loser without calling him a loser.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is the one big chance you're ever gonna get in your life now at this point to do something. And it would be that sort of like, and then Master Molecule has the goal to say, nah, I'm good. So it's like it just wouldn't click, and it's like, well, why? Like, what is the point? And that's what the reveal is in issue 8. It's like that Master Molecule does have stuff in his life, and he does have like this whole other world, and I'll let you guys spoil what that world is.
Well, that like not to speak on the behalf of Cross, but we're both dads. We both have little kids, so like the reveal at the end that where his kid comes in and is talking to him. I'm like, oh, that makes me like him even more. And I know he's a supervillain, and he's probably a creep of a guy, but that makes me like him even more.
Yeah, I've got to say, I did kind of say this to Nitro earlier, like before we came on. Like, I really connect a lot with Master Molecule. Like, I feel like he's like a kind of spirit animal to me. Like, I just absolutely love the character. Just even like the moment that always gets me is the moment like when they're in the diner after the whole moon thing. And seeing him like when he started getting shot at, and he's just like curled up in the floor, and Spirit King's just sitting next to him, and he's just talking to him, and he's like, why can't you just leave me alone? Why can't you just go away? I feel so bad for him. And then just to see that reveal at the end of issue 8 when like he walks in and he's got, you know, his kids come up to him, and it's like I said at the end of going through issue 4, I kind of had a hint there was something between him and, okay, spoilers here for this, if you're still here. For
shame on you.
There was hints at him in Lady
No.
Liberty.
If people are interested in the book and then they're gonna whine about hearing the spoilers, let them know they're not allowed to buy it anymore. They can't read it. I'm sorry. I disavow you.
There you go.
I disavow you.
Yeah, you heard it from the man himself. There you go. Sorry, you missed your chance if you complain now. But like seeing him in Lady Liberty, and I got a little hint because we'd seen them fight at the very start of issue 1. And then there was a hint there. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a friendship leading into a romance. And then we get to the end of issue 8, and it's like, no, they're married with kids. They have a life together already. Like that's already an established thing. And I was like, oh, I need to know how we got to that point. I need to see what happens next now.
Yeah.
And just quick shout out in the chat to Mr. Morphin, if I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm getting that name wrong. But it's so good to see you, man. Thank you for coming and joining the chat and being part of what we're doing here. But yeah, like that was just that was an amazing reveal. And kind of like Nitro said, like, you know, we're families, we're married guys with kids, you know, it's like, and it just helps you relate to him that little bit more. And like I did almost have that kind of feeling of like, you know, good for him.
Well, that's the thing. Like he has this whole. I alluded to it earlier in the spoiler-free discussion. Like his professional life is not great, but with the direction of where I want to take his private life. That is where he shines, and that is where he's probably like, I don't know if I should spoil it, but no, I won't. But
no, I was gonna say that one's completely on you, dude. If it's something that's not out yet, like my hands are off the wheel. That's up to you.
I don't want to do that, but like, you'll see him in an entirely different light. I'll say that, and then you can see like. I guess maybe it is the world of supervillainy that kind of like drags him down and makes him a bit more grumpy or a bit more jaded, but he definitely has like other sides to him that you might have not expected, and I would argue that all the main characters I never got to mention this, but about let's say 90% of all the main protagonists and antagonists have been introduced. So like
okay.
Every essential character is there in one shape or another, and they will come back. If you don't see a character die like outright,
I was going to say full spoilers. You see a lot of them die.
Yeah.
you see a lot of death, at least to a certain degree.
Yeah, but some it's a little ambiguous, and I'm not going to say what is what, but
that is true. Yeah.
You never know.
Okay.
Who can come back at any moment.
Okay, okay, I'll be definitely keeping an eye out for that. I'm going to go back and reread this now. I'm getting so many wee hints. Like, I need to go back and look a deeper dive into this, I think.
One of my favorite hints towards the Lady Liberty reveal, or the marriage reveal, is in issue 6 when they're at the burger place, and the Spirit King and Master Molecule are going at it, and just talking about what to do next. And Spirit King's like, well, why don't we just fight Lady Liberty? If she's your arch nemesis, why don't we just go after her? He
just goes off.
And he freaks out. He's like, no, like, she's mine. You don't touch her. You don't look at her. You don't talk about her. Like, she's my arch nemesis. And there's one little thing I put that, like, I don't know if people could pick up, but when he's screaming and he's like, he says she's and then he cuts off and then, like, says again, she's my arch nemesis.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
No, I didn't catch that little thing. Okay. Because I think that's the great thing about, like, the reveal of issue 8. It gives you this great hindsight to look back on every other issue. And you see,
put a
like,
whole new light on, like, the first panel. Like, it puts a whole new light on that.
Yeah, like the two of them fighting at the start, because that's got me questioning, like, are they married at that point? Is this how it started? Is this even, like, at the end of issue 1? Okay, big, again, spoiler for issue 1. At the very end of issue 1, basically being a almost failed supervillain, they decide we're going to rob a bank. The Frightening Five, all 3 of them, they say we're going to rob a bank, and they get busted by Mr. Infinite, who is basically the Superman character of the universe.
Yeah.
And Spirit King kills him,
right?
like pretty easily. And I'm like,
proud of it, or he's happy about it. He's like, yeah, I did it.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is like everybody's happy about it, like, because, like, he's excited about it, and we see
Blacksmith.
Blacksmith,
like, good job, son.
He comes back like, it's an amazing job. Yeah, he's like commending him. It's so good. And yet Master Molecule's like freaking out, and like you almost kind of like, why is he freaking out? And he's talking about like all the rules and stuff. There's rules between heroes and villains, and there's kind of a whole new light even shed on that with the fact of, like, well, he's married to Lady Liberty, so is that affecting how he sees, like, there's rules to how we handle this, or is that just something between him and his wife that they've set up of, like, okay, you can fight them, but don't kill anybody or something? Or
I think in terms of the rules, it's all in state. Okay, like, if you want to talk about, like, political intrigue, like, there in some of the issue, I've been currently writing issue 3, or not issue 3, volume 3, and there are, and it's introduced in the latter half of volume 2, and it's the Good Guy Organization, which is and
it's like the UN.
Yeah, and it gives an idea, like, there is a sort of like symbiotic relationship between the villain organization and the hero organization, and there are like legal rules. Like, I think I came up with a line like the Superhuman Civil Rights Act of 1963, like something like that, where you can't unmask somebody and you can't kill them. You know, like, there are rules in place in the context of this universe of what to do and what not to do. And I would imagine in the conflict for Master Molecule in Volume 1, despite the fact that you don't have that side to it yet of, he's married to a superhero, but he's probably a guy who has followed the rules the entire time he's been a supervillain. And, like, here's this new guy that comes up, immediately breaks the rules, and everybody's like, this guy's great. Like, this guy's an up-and-comer. And it's like, well, that's not fair.
Like, it's not how it works.
No, it's it's for the people who did everything right their whole life, and then they still can't get it. They still can't. It's still not going to work out. And then the other level is like, well, I don't. If you have that emotional investment in a superhero the way he does, it's like you don't want the other villains to think, oh, now it's a free for all. We can kill whomever we want. Yeah, because it's like, well, I'm looking out for my wife.
So, yeah, you don't want to put her in any danger from any supervillain.
So not to switch gears or anything, we can come back to the specifics of the issues, but I'm very interested in the actual process of creating a comic. Because I went to school for art, and I've dabbled in trying to create a comic, and it's very difficult, and it's super time intensive.
Certainly is.
From what I've seen and researched, because I haven't done a lot. So my specific question is, like, so when you're writing a comic, like, there's a couple really powerful panels in the comic that don't have any words on them. So when you're writing something, like, are you writing like the details as far as I know exactly what I want this to look like. I know exactly how I want this like framed and everything like that. One example I have is when I think it's the Neptunian when he gets killed and he is they have him, the shot is the overhead shot and it has him laying on the table and it has the super society surrounding him, and like that's a really powerful image, that one image. Like how do you go about writing something like that? Like what's your process?
Well, I'd argue that at least in comic book writing, there's two methods, right? There's the Marvel method, and then there's I would imagine more traditional script writing. For those who aren't aware of what the Marvel method is, it's basically you give the artist a general outline of what the story is, and then the artist draws it, and then you go back in and you write the dialogue and whatever according to what the artist has done for you.
Okay.
And that's what they've done for years. Is the more I guess easy is an easy way to do it. But me, I took like a script writing class a while back.
Okay.
And so like I'm very much involved with the panel descriptions and just the tone.
Yeah.
And like my scripts are very in depth. Like if it's a specific shot, like I'm sure to get in there. Like, but if it, some things you can be a little bit, carefree with. Like, okay, Master Molecule walks down a hallway. Like, have fun with, drawing that.
Yeah.
Like you got to let the artists have, express themselves in one way or another.
Yeah.
But if it's like a big specific thing, I tend to have a lot of control over it because I do want it to look a specific way. Like one example I can think of right off the top of my head is in the issue 8 when it starts with the flashback of Skull Commander and Master Molecule in the diner, and they're having the argument. You mentioned it where it's the thing where it ends with him saying, "You're never gonna get a second chance from me."
Yeah.
And then the next panel, he's in the same exact pose. It's like just like reaching his hand out. It's like, "Come on, join me." And it's like, yeah, that's something. Like that's something I put in it, like in the panel descriptions for comedic effect. But I'm very hands on. Like I don't really talk about it very much, but I'm not a control freak, but I certainly like having a lot of say.
You know exactly how you want it.
Yeah. And I because for me, I need it to get to the points I want. It has to. I don't know. I try my best to convey it, but like in terms of design and art, like I design all the characters.
Yeah. Okay, that was a question that I had. So you knew how everyone was going to look before they were even like illustrated in your book. Like you knew exactly how they were going to look.
Like I'm not a very talented artist. Like I can draw well enough, but I can't draw a book. I can't draw. So like I just draw the costumes and what the characters are look like, and then the artists they of course take it and make it look good. Funny enough, like I don't know. Sometimes I'm a little proud of my design work because funny story. Like for issue 5, we had a guest artist, David Hahn, and issue 5 is the documenter issue. And the only reason why he even agreed to doing that issue was because he saw my design of the documenter, the goth girl. Yeah. And he's like, I want to draw her. I'll do your book. And I'm like, yeah, great.
There you go.
Sometimes it's something that's that simple. But no, for me, it's part of the fun because especially with a lot of the background characters, they're references to other things.
Yeah.
Like one thing I'm very I can spoil this because it's not that big of a spoiler, but something I'm very excited for is in volume 3 you get to see a supervillain nightclub.
Oh my gosh!
That's awesome. Yes,
and
that's gonna be fun.
I had so much fun just designing, like, because I gotta fill up an entire club.
Yeah.
So I just sat down one day and I just like went at it, just like putting in all these different characters, and they're all like a couple of them are like either future supporting characters or like you've seen them in the background before. It's kind of just reinforcing the universe. Yeah. As well as foreshadowing to future events or future stories. There's one little thing. I can't spoil it, but there's one, like, Spirit King goes to the nightclub. I'll say that. And Spirit King talks to somebody at the bar, and they have just a quick little exchange. And you would think nothing of it if you're just a casual reader. but then way down the line, and I mean way down the line, that conversation makes 10 times more sense when when it's revealed as to who that person he was talking to is. And that's something I like. I like having basically setup, if you will, like just little hints and allusions to, like, yeah, this is a large world and there are multiple things going on that you are not necessarily that's not necessarily in the forefront or foreground, and there's different things going on in the background, which I feel is what volume 1 and the what's been released in volume 2, that's kind of what's been going on. Like,
you're rewarding people for actually paying attention while they're reading.
Exactly. And that's what I think people would appreciate, because anybody who's a fervent reader, they'll get it. But I do make sure that the stories are accessible enough for, you know, like, oh, I want to get in on this, and you'll get like a one and done adventure, and it's like, okay, great. And then but for continuous readers, they'll see like there's this big long overarching thing going on.
So
oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but in terms of but like in terms of the creative aspect, of course I let the artists have fun with what they want to do. You know, I can't be so overbearing to the point where they have to, like, everything's like you have to do it this way, because then you're just micromanaging a little too much. But in terms of character design, like, everything's specifically designed. Like, Spirit King, with his costume, as his name would imply, it's more regal. So I thought of the more regal villains. So I thought of like Magneto or Doctor Doom, something like that, where, you know, he's basically wearing a skirt and he's just chilling, or he's just got like the big over the shoulder cape and
well, even the way his hair is, like how it flips up on the side, like, you're like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's doing.
and then Master Molecule and I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's a whole story behind Master Molecule's costume.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
There's a whole reason, because, and it's not even that specific costume, but just like what his costume represents.
Yeah.
Because I remember I listened to some reviewer, and they were like, I don't get why he's called Master Molecule. Like, his costume doesn't even represent anything molecular or anything with atoms or anything. And I was like sitting there thinking, like, well, I know something you don't, and because I know what it means, especially like with the M on it, or the double M, like that's I can't get into it, but it's everything is intentional. It's not like the things I put in there, some very small number of things is for fun, but everything else it's representative of something. Or
I found myself like in images, like when they were in the diner and stuff like that, and I don't know if there's anything to it, but I find myself searching the background and like trying to like mentally like frame these images so I can like recall them later if there's any callbacks or anything like that. So that's really cool that you do that, though. It's almost like Easter eggs within your own series.
What's fun, I think, like, some of the stuff is just Easter eggs to my own life that only I would get. Like, with when I was a kid, and this is, I was a big Lego kid, and I had this little mini, they call them minifigures, right? And it was one of the ones, like, I mixed and matched the pieces. This is something I can it's so weird what you remember and what you forget, right? It's like, this is the one thing that just it has stuck in my brain forever. But I had this one little guy, and he was like a space guy, and I called him Hop Along Starspringer. And then when I was writing issue 6, I'm like, okay, I need to write the space bounty hunter's name. What's his name? And then I was like, what if we just gave him that name? Like, that's a silly enough space name.
I was going to have to ask where that name came from, because it was just so ridiculous. Hop Along Starspringer. Like, where in the world did you get that name? But that makes total sense now.
Same with Blacksmith. Blacksmith was a character idea I came up with when I was like 12.
Oh wow!
And then, but not like it. Not what he is now. It's like, it's not like when I was 12. It's like, I want him to represent corporate America and bosses. Yeah,
I'm gonna say coming up with that at 12, and like, wow, I've wasted my life so far.
When I'm sipping OJ and eating crackers and celery sticks, I'm really want to make an argument about capitalism and just how we treat our workers and whatnot. But no, like, that was one of the things. Like, I had that same with Blacksmith, Mr. Infinite, because when you're a kid, when you're like like coming up with original characters. I think for the most part, you're just ripping off other characters.
Yeah.
And then, like, because when I came up with Mr. Infinite, I'm like, oh, like he's an original character, but in hindsight, it's just Superman.
Yeah.
So it's like now being able to do this, and I need a Superman figure. Well, I already came up with the character years ago, so just put him in there, and it's like I know it. Like it's like as I said, it's an Easter egg to my own life. But to anybody else, it's just just like an analog that doesn't even matter because he just gets killed off immediately.
Yeah, but that's really cool though that you're able to like bring that sort of stuff back in, like all these little things from even when you were a kid, just being able to like, oh, I can use that here and I can use that, and honestly, I think it plays into the story really well. Like even the names that they've got and stuff, I think it works really well for it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was gonna say I'm probably gonna derail the conversation, but
that's all right. I've done that like 5 times already. Don't worry about it.
It's all good.
In reading the series, it obviously has a comedic bend to it, and I think that's or I'm not even gonna try to use that word. I think that's improved by the art that's used, the style of the art that's used. Not that it's a character style art, but it's like influenced in that, I guess, in that direction. So like when you like how did you go about, I guess, choosing an illustrator or choosing an illustration style? How was that whole process? Because I'm coming from a background of art, so that's intriguing to me.
Well, okay, like in speaking of comic book art, there's so many different styles, right? Like I imagine nowadays one of the more popular ones is like the webcomic style, where it's overly cartoony and simplified, and then we have like in your more traditional indie comics, it tends to skew on more realistic, and even in more mainstream comics, like your superhero books, while cartoony, it also falls in line of realistic. But with this book, I think the idea was like try to capture a style of a cartoon in a weird sense, but not like overly cartoony, but just like a nice like I think this is something I spoke with the artist Ben Matsuya, where he said like the vibe we were gonna go after was or we kind of just like agreed this was gonna go the direction we were gonna go into, but kind of like the old school Hanna-Barbera idea, like with like Birdman or
because I noticed the like the jaws are like very like overpronounced and like square, and that just sets the tone for the whole series.
Right. Well, because I don't know, but that's the fun thing with art. Like I'm not a big, depending on what the story is, realistic art is great, but the point of art is you can exaggerate and go into any direction you want. And if you have that opportunity, why not? And with this being such an absurd story, with it being like a mix of various elements of both, like I don't know, like real things happen, but it's more interesting to see those real things occur with characters that look somewhat ridiculous. Because then it just offers a little bit of a juxtaposition going on. Like on one level, like we'll speak about the Friends, Family, and Other Problems with the Skull Commander Master Molecule confrontation. Just two guys arguing about friendship and just like life and just dealing with connections and just trying to make things work despite the overwhelming odds that it never will go back to the way it was. Yet when you're looking at it, it's a skeleton yelling at a man in a blue spandex suit. And it's like you don't expect to see that, or you don't normally see that. So when you do, it's more unique and interesting, I feel. But with all these artists that I have, so far the team consists of Ben Matsuya and Kyle Petruk, both wonderful artists. And we had David Hahn on as guest artist in issue 5, and him and I are working on another project. So he hasn't been able to go back into the book. But I think Ben and Kyle complement each other well enough that the story has a suitable flow to it. It's somewhat consistent, so that's good. But that's the whole idea behind the art. Just kind of like it's cartoony, but it's not over the top. I feel.
It took me, just to be transparent, it took me like not an episode.
Issue.
Issue. That's right. Yeah, it took me an issue or two to kind of like mentally like get into the art matching up with the writing. But once I did, I was like, oh, okay, this is awesome. This makes sense. I love it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to steer the conversation a little bit because we're starting to kind of push to the wrapping up sort of section of it. And just last couple of things I wanted to ask really about the book was talked a lot about Master Molecule. I did want to go a little bit into Spirit King and Nightman.
Well, before we do that, let me just ask you guys? Let me ask you two a question. Let me.
Oh wow, it's getting turned around on us now.
This is the Louis show now.
This is what happens when we bring someone on the show. We automatically get kicked out and taken over.
But like, okay, this is just for me, just for my jollies. Can I just know which for you guys? What was your standout character and what was your standout moment, if you have any? If none is none is a suitable answer, I'll take that.
See, standout character for me, like I literally go back between the three members of the Frightful Five. Like I think Master Molecule is very much a character I kind of relate to now as a ride along. Like I understand where he is in life, understand what's going on with him, and I can kind of like understand what's happening with his life at the minute. Then Spirit King and Nightman, like depending on the mood I'm in, the two of them just 100% intrigue me as well though. Like
that's good.
Like Spirit King I am completely intrigued with. Like I need to know if this guy is nuts or not. And kind of one of the things I was going to even ask about is like we get that reveal from Skull Commander when he kind of tries to show Master Molecule like who these guys are, and we get the family picture that has Spirit King in it.
Right.
Which let me pull up. I want to get the name right. So it's like he's got the Packard, Packard Bristol, the only son of Archibald Bristol, and like the whole family dies in the fire and stuff. But it's clearly Spirit King, so we start to kind of like get more of a hint that he's not crazy. There is actually something else going on here. But it also makes you ask a million more questions about him. I'm like, I'm so like I need to know who he is and what happens with him. And then Nightman's just awesome.
Oh really? I'm glad. You know what? I am shocked with how many people are like jiving with Nightman.
I don't know why. It's like I think what makes Nightman work for me is literally the panels where you've got him and Spirit King together.
Yeah,
the two of them are
able to carry the conversation like it's normal.
Because the thing is, like, he fills in the conversation for Nightman, but then you're like, it cuts to his face, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what Nightman's saying to him. Like, you kind of agree with Spirit King of like, yeah, that's what's happening right now, and I just think the dynamic with the two of them is just so much fun. Like, I love reading the two of them together. Like, I love the fact of like when they're facing the Super Society, and like the two of them have like murdered the whole Super Society. And Master Molecule's still, off dealing with the leader, and is like, and the two of them just go and get ice cream on the beach. Like he'll be fine. And
you're like, I want to know what happened to the ice cream dude, and you could see him wearing his hat. So I'm like, oh, he's probably dead.
Who's to say?
He just walks away wearing the hat, and I'm like, did he kill him? Did he just randomly steal the hat? You've actually got no idea. I love that dynamic with the two of them. So they would definitely be the standout characters for me. Like I love Master Molecule, but them together is definitely I want to know more about them.
I think for me, it's probably Blacksmith, Master Molecule, and the Documentary. So Blacksmith, I just think it's hilarious how he tries to comfort Master Molecule, because Master Molecule is so in the dumps. He's like, dude, he's like patting him on the back. He's like, it's okay, man. But he can snap into the I will murder you in a second.
Yep.
I love that. I think that's hilarious. That's a hilarious dynamic. Master Molecule, like, you have you always hear the term reluctant superhero, but you never heard the term like reluctant supervillain. Like he doesn't. He's not really in it. His heart's not in it. I love that whole aspect. I love that aspect, and like obviously that expands more as we get into the beginning of Volume 2, obviously, with that big reveal. And the Documentary. I know we talked about this earlier, but the fact that how she so casually talks about the stuff that she's talking about.
Yep.
It's freaking hilarious. So, yeah.
My favorite Documentary line is when Nikola Tesla's metal mongers attack the city, in what was it, like 1943?
Yeah.
And, and her just thing to describe is like, what a bummer. Like, just
it's just like
really
kind of,
casual
well, that
about
sucks. Just so nonchalantly, it's like she's well written, and you said we're going to see more of her coming up, like the documentary.
Yeah, the way it's going, each volume ends with a documentary issue.
Oh, that's cool.
And
Nice.
it ties into the main story.
Awesome.
Love it.
I'm all for that. I think that's a cool way
I'll
to wrap
spoil
it
this
up.
because it's not a spoiler, but you can the documentary story ties into the main story, and I'm not gonna explain how.
Okay.
No, I
Like,
kind of figured
they're
it
gonna
would.
collide.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Like, are we going to see more of her? Is it going to tie in? Is there going to be a bit more crossover? Because like she's not just put in there just. Well, I guess she could have been put in there just as a kind of like, this is just the world that they live in, to kind of expand it a little bit. But like, is there more to it? So yeah, I'm kind of glad to hear that, to see how she now connects with the main universe.
Everything. If you have a question for it, most likely there's a whole story like answering it. We just have to get to that point where we can tell those stories, and hopefully things go well enough in terms of the book succeeding, and with the industry turning around, given the current crisis.
Definitely. And so last question then about Spirit King and Nightman, just because I don't want to go too far in it. We've talked a lot about this stuff for them already. So are we going to be seeing a lot more of their stories coming up? Because obviously the first couple of volumes have had very heavy, like, Master Molecule story. It's been very much like it's his story. Are we going to start to get those answers about Spirit King? And are we going to start to find out a little bit more about Nightman? Because we really know nothing about him, like, at all.
With the way Volume 3 is, Volume 3 is about, the main story is 5 issues. And it starts as a Master Molecule story, but then, like, in the third, like the halfway point, it morphs into a Spirit King story. And this is the first time you actually get to see a lot of Spirit King, especially away from the other guys. And that's his first entry in the overall story of, like, what's this guy's deal?
Okay.
But it's definitely not like the crescendo of what his story is. Like, he's not getting his Lady Liberty moment yet. Like, that's definitely down the road.
Yeah.
I'd argue, with the way the story's going, the way it's outlined, you're going to learn a whole lot more about Nightman before you learn anything about Spirit King.
Okay.
Like Nightman will have his own, like, thing. He has his whole thing going on, and you'll get to see it. But I do enjoy. I don't know. There's some. Are you guys familiar with the show Twin Peaks?
I have never seen it.
Okay. Well, the show itself was about it. Like, the whole inciting incident in the show is, like, it's a small town, and a girl in the town gets murdered, and then an FBI agent comes in, and he helps lead the investigation. And the showrunner is a film director named David Lynch.
Okay.
And David Lynch's idea was, he never wanted to answer who murdered her, because he thought that was not the interesting part of the show. It was more so the questions and the other, and like he said, like, it led to questions which led to answers, but all the answers seemed to lead to more questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that sort of mindset of approaching a story. But I also realized that at the end of the day, everybody likes an answer.
Yes.
But I am in no rush to get to the answer, but there is an answer, and it will be delivered.
Okay.
Like, so I like speculation. I like people being able to give their thoughts and ideas. Like with Spirit King right now, there are two arguments. Like, you could, in issue 8 or 7, really, there's the thing is, like, is he this Packard Bristol character, or this Packard Bristol person from the 1920s that's somehow here, or is he what he says he is? Is he the god of the spirit world?
Yeah.
And like, there's no real, aside from the photo, I mean, like, I don't know if there's any real evidence to support either claim.
Yeah.
Or it's like, you could believe either claim, or you could believe both, or you could do whatever. Because right now there is no answer.
See, I absolutely loved that. I think that was what I loved about the photo, was like, okay, we've gotten a little tidbit of, like, an answer to who he is, But it's one of those things, is like when you reveal like one puzzle piece, and I'm like, it really tells you nothing, and in fact, it just adds more questions of like, wait a minute, no, like I thought he was just like some monarch of the spirit world, or at least he claimed, and now it's like, is he this guy from the 1920s? Is he immortal? Has he lived this long? Is he a descendant? Like, there's all these other questions, and I'm like, but I'm glad to know that eventually we will get an answer. Like, I don't care if it takes like 10 volumes or whatever, or however long the book goes. I'm glad to know that we do get an answer, because that's one of the things I hate, is like to get built up in something like that and just not get a reveal ever.
Yeah, I believe in satisfying payoffs, and back to just the idea of long form storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you can actually go back and look, and then you could put it all together.
Yeah,
like you'll get your answer, but then when you go back, you can see the answer was probably sitting right there in front of you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And that's what I quite enjoy. Like, not to go back to the Lady Liberty moments, like that is the first one, and of course that has to be the first one, because that leads down to so many other stories and incidents all throughout the series. Like, of the consequence of, I think that's the best way to sum up what this series is, and it's that your actions have consequences. And all of them are going to have either done something that we don't know yet, or they're going to do something, or they're currently doing something that will blow up, or something will happen to them because of that. And that is what Master Molecule and Lady Liberty's relationship is. That's the question. Like, what happens if a superhero and supervillain are married? And not only that, they're keeping it a secret. And it's like, what happens?
I was like, what are the implications of that? Like, when I saw that panel, I was like, there's got to be so many different implications to that one relationship.
Yeah, like it can lead into any direction, and that's the fun, where you get to see where it goes, and how the world may react to that sort of thing if it does come out. Let's hope it does, but if it does, who knows? But what did I want to say? What we were talking about? Oh yeah, like the Spirit King photo reveal, where it's like he's Packard Bristol. The fun part about that for me is like Skull Commander just mentions that, and then like Master Molecule is like, "Why are you telling me this?" And he's like, "Well, this doesn't matter. Like this, like they don't care. Like they don't care about this really, because it's like the point he's trying to make is you don't know who you're working with, because like." And then it goes into this whole argument. It's like they're not people you could trust, but you could trust me.
Yeah.
It's like they don't like, and that's part of the fun of the story, where characters like, it's a very human thing. Like, I don't care about what they're doing. I care about us.
Yeah.
And that's, but as the reader, like, depending on who you're invested in the story, you would care. Like, wait a minute, what? And then they treat it like whatever. So it's kind of meta in a way, but yeah, it's all just part of the story, I guess.
Awesome. So I think we're going to kind of wrap up the villains seeking hero conversation there. There is two more things I did want to mention. First thing is something that I said right at the start we're going to come back to, and I'm 100% sticking to my word. That although this is Lewis's first like foray into comic book writing, and it's an amazing foray, it's an amazing first start to it, there is another book that he has written previously. And the title, if I'm getting this right, I pulled it. It is available on Amazon. I checked.
Yep.
It is I, Doom, an anxious love story.
Yep, that's it. Yeah.
So,
romance novel.
I'm not even sure what the first question I want to ask here is. Like, I've got so many. Like, so a romance novel? How did that come about? And how did we get from releasing a romance novel to writing comic books?
Well, okay. In terms of writing, let's answer the second one first. Like, the thing about comic books, at least with a superhero comic, is a superhero comic can be any genre, and it works. So it could be, like, you see a superhero in space, it's a superhero book. You see a superhero like in the Wild West, it's a superhero book. Like, it could be anything, and nobody would bat an eye. And one of the things that I think that's in plenty of superhero books that people have been eating up forever is love stories. Like, people love reading about love, if you will, and there's certainly a lot of elements of there's lots of different love stories in Villain Seeking Hero. There's the one between Master Molecule and Lady Liberty, and only now are we going to be able to explore that and what that is and what their relationship, how it works. And I'll spoil this for volume 3. There's an issue where you get to see Spirit King go on a date.
Oh my goodness, that's gonna be
And
amazing.
that's his thing, because he's a single guy and he's trying to, and he's he's very eccentric, given what's going on in the story. And you get to see how someone like that like tries to find love in this crazy world. But so, like writing love stories, I love that. It's so much fun, and it's also just part of the human element of it all. Because what's more human than love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And then how I wrote that, like the book, it is I do. It just dealing through stuff, man.
Yeah.
Just like why you got to pry into my personal life? Just trying to.
Well, you wrote it down in that book, dude. So I'm going to ask, man.
Yeah. I put it in a book, so I'm the one with the egg on my face, right? So like, no, just going through stuff, and it's like, well, I'm gonna feel this way. I better feel it in words. So just wrote a book.
Gosh, Cross, you gotta let the guy process some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not my fault. I thought, hey, let's have a look and see if there's anything I've missed that he's written, and boy, did I not know about that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that book at all. I don't like it.
Well, you were clearly in a much darker place, considering it's called "It Is I, Doom."
Well, it's comedic. Like the title's ironic in a way. Like there's lots of my sister often makes the jokes that how I write, she calls certain unique points of dialogue Louisms, where it's just
nice.
She's like this is a weird way to phrase it, but it works. So like that's how, like, that book has a lot of it. Like there's lots of shades to like the writing style in Villain Seeking Hero, but it's definitely two different animals.
Yeah.
No problem. I had to ask about it because I'm like, I think it threw me so much because I wanted to see, like, is Louis written anything that I've not known about? Like, has he been writing comics and I've not picked up on it before? And I literally just put you into Amazon and that popped up, and I was like, okay, didn't expect that one. But yeah, let's return back to comic books though for the second thing I wanted to mention. He posted it in chat like forever ago, so I'm sorry I'm only mentioning it now. Ads, this isn't what I'm mentioning to you, Lewis. This is just Ads that came back, said I'm back. Just dropped off to buy the comic after listening. I'm so interested. So thank you so much, Ads. Thank you for checking out Villain Seeking Heroes. Having read it myself, you will not be disappointed. So
I hope you enjoy it.
So the last thing I wanted to mention is you kind of mentioned earlier as well that you've got another project that you're working on. You did post it on your social media, on your Instagram, Midnight Western Theatre.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What can we expect from it? When can we expect it?
So that itself is, as I mentioned, I met David Hahn through his work in Villain Seeking Hero. And then we just got along well enough that we're like, hey, let's work on something else together. And I came up with the idea of the idea of this story is kind of funny. I was just sitting in a coffee shop one day, just being like, you know what? I haven't seen Goth Cowboys. and I was just like thinking like, and it just felt like I caught on fire. Like, oh, wait a minute. If I've never seen this before and I'm like the first person to have this thought, better get in on this. So then I'll be the monopoly here. And I contacted him. I'm like, so I like drew up the designs for the two main characters, and I messaged him. I'm like, listen, I got an idea. You want to get in on this? Because I knew he did have an affinity for goth looking people. And he's like, yes, I want to get in on this. And then we've been working on that since. The story itself, the title is derived from like old radio serials, like from the 40s, 50s. Hence the idea why it's kind of long and a mouthful. But the idea is for that story, it's set in the 1860s. It's a supernatural Western. And it's about the woman in black and her sidekick, Alexander the reluctant vampire. And it's basically it's like an anthology story. Each issue is a different adventure.
Okay.
And some of the issues change in protagonist. So like it could be a completely different thing. And and yeah, I mean, it certainly has shades of villain seeking hero, but it's very much its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has humor, but it's not. It's definitely a bit darker.
Okay.
It's a bit. Yeah. It's a bit. Yeah. Because it's supposed to be like a horror supernatural thing. In terms of like right now, I can't really talk about the nitty gritty.
Okay. Yeah,
but,
that's
you could certainly expect that coming from us soon enough.
awesome. Like, yeah, that's absolutely fine, man. I still wanted to get that out there because even just seeing you posting about it, like, it looked so intriguing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of like curious what it's going to be like, so I definitely will be checking that out as well when that drops.
Yeah. No. Well, the thing is, I'll say this because this is just fun. All my work is connected, and even the romance novel, like it's connected to villain seeking hero.
Yeah.
Because in the romance novel, like the main character's watching the news, and he's like complaining about the news. He's just thinking in his head. He's looking at the news anchor, and he's like, the news anchor has like a mustard stain on the lapel of his shirt, and he's just fixated on the mustard stain.
Yeah.
And then like he keeps calling like the new news anchor. The anchorman's name is or the reporter's name is Joshua Chambers. And then I think it's in issue 2. There's the reporter, and I think he has the same name. Of Joshua Chambers.
Yeah. The reporter outside the funeral.
Yeah, it's either that or I know in volume 3 the reporter has a big role in one of the issues, but
You've created a Lewisverse.
a Lewisverse, yeah, and in volume 2, in the latter half of the next 3 issues, there's one character that also pops up in the Western book. So
Okay.
like
Okay.
they're all
awesome.
it's all connected, but not in a very in your face way. It's just like a very small thing.
Oh well, I'm so going to be getting that Midnight Western Theatre when it comes out, and I will be deep diving that in Villain Seeking Heroes, looking for connections now.
I love the image of her riding the skeleton horse. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really cool imagery. You can find that up on Lewis's Instagram page. I believe it's up there.
It's just my name if you want to look it up.
Louis Southard. It's that straightforward. You can find him. If you're following our like social media stuff, I'll throw it up there. Like I've been sharing like his pages frequently, talking about the upcoming interview that we're doing. So
yeah, I've really appreciated that. How exactly did you find me? It was just seemed like out of nowhere.
yeah, literally, I think I was looking at synopsis for stuff. I don't even remember how it came across. Like I think I found it on Twitter or Instagram. It was a synopsis for Villain Seeking Hero.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember you talking to me about it. And like, dude, there's this comic. It's told from a villain's standpoint.
Yeah, it's like
and he was telling me a little bit about it. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, like literally, I started looking at that, and it's like it really it grabbed me. Like this could be a really interesting take because I love like I'm a huge superhero fan, but I love like alternate versions of superheroes. Like Marvel and DC are very set in their ways, but if you're talking stuff like Invincible or stuff like the Umbrella Academy or stuff that's like it's superhero but it's got a twist on it, it's like I very much love those sorts of stories because I love seeing the superhero genre told from another perspective. So I was going to say like so when I saw like Villain Seeking Hero, it was like it really caught my attention as something like I definitely want to check this out. And
that was one of the things I heard in one review. Like it was almost a critique because they're like, how many times can we see this like of just like, oh, we get it, like superheroes, but there's something else, like there's something else going on. And
I would say, speaking as a full-fledged geek on the internet, so I have that authority now. Don't take any of that stuff to heart. Like, there's a lot of people who are basically like, but there's a lot of people that say like superhero stuff is like dead and stuff, and it's done now, and it's like, no, it's actually evolved into its own genre pretty much now. It's an established genre within pop culture now.
Well, I was gonna say like, when people come up with that argument, like I've seen this in The Boys or the Umbrella Academy or Invincible or anything like that, it's like, yeah, but you haven't seen me done it.
Yeah,
you haven't seen me try it, like, because I hope with where the story goes and what it is so far, people can see there's something good, there's something to it, and I hope people pick up on that.
I think the only thing that ever came across my mind is kind of similar to it was Nick Spencer's like Superior Foes of Spider-Man graphic novel.
I haven't read that.
It's like not in terms of like the story itself, but just in terms of what it's doing, it's like it's a graphic novel alone, but it's about like, I don't know, I think it's the new Sinister Six they call themselves, but it's basically a bunch of Spider-Man's villains, and it's the story following them, and it's written in a bit of a comedic style. It was the only thing I could think of like, yeah, that's kind of, it's hitting on that, but it's also its very own thing at the same time. So it's like
And I feel like Villain Seeking Hero starts out as one thing and morphs into something else.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that was just me going from the synopsis and thinking of what it stood as, but like actually reading the book, I'm like, it's done so well, and it hits so many different takes and so many different genres of stuff. It's like honestly, it's probably one of my favorite books I've read recently. It's like it's you know, it's
I don't know, like with what I do, well, when I try to write it, I do, you know, you can't help but look towards other people for inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, so like, but the thing about comics, what's fun is it's there's this giant history to it, like, so like being able to come at it with a more satirical approach, you know, you get to see like different things, and you get to reference different things, and it's all one hodgepodge of everything you'll like, or everything you do like, and yet it's all told in its own separate, unique way.
Yeah.
So you know, you get to have fun. You get to have fun with it, and that's the whole point of storytelling. You just get to see what you like in one big thing.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think that's it. I think you've definitely done a good job with it. I think I don't think the superhero genre is ever going to go away. People are always going to be looking for new takes on it and new stories within it, and this is definitely one that I highly recommend. Is, you know, if you're looking for something different superhero wise, then this will give you it. It'll give you a really unique story. You know, it's like
Me too. I think everybody should read it.
Yeah.
I think everybody should give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely do. And like, you know, as we said, like that was something I was going to ask as well. So obviously, like the dates for the release and stuff changed, like with all the, you know, I'm not going to say it out loud because I'm going to put this up on YouTube later, and YouTube doesn't like this word in searches. But with the issues that are going on around the world at the moment, obviously this was meant to release kind of in the summer, and, you know, like physical copy. Are we still going to see like physical releases of, you know, Villain Seeking Hero? Are we going to see, is it going to like just drop the first 8 issues into comic book stores since they're online, or are we going to pick up with them? Or
I spoke to my editor about that recently, and she said that the way it's going to go, of course we have to wait for Diamond and everything to get back in order.
Yeah.
And she said that if anything, what's probably going to happen is it's going to be, I imagine the release dates, of course they're going to change.
Yeah.
They're getting pushed back, but I don't have a full schedule, but the idea she gave me, it's still going to be individual issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, of course, a trade, and we'll keep going from there. So it's just going to be standard release.
Okay.
But yeah, but if you know, but that's the thing. Like, let's say somebody runs into the physical copy in the shop of just like issue 1, then bam, it's right there, you know, online, and then they can just go ahead and read it.
Yeah. I was just curious with that, just because like the first 8 issues have obviously dropped online. I was just curious if that had affected the physical release, and I'm glad you're still getting the physical releases, because I'll be honest, I definitely want to get an issue number 1 to put up on my comic wall behind me.
Oh, me too. Like that's the one thing I desperately want. I want, because this being my first comic, I just want to go to the comic shop and
you want the physical.
Pick it up and like
pluck it off the shelf and you know, just hold it and be happy.
Yeah, you know, having never written a comic, I've attempted it, but it never went well. I can only imagine that feeling of walking into the store and picking up your first ever issue of a comic that you've written. I can only imagine how good a feeling that will be, and hopefully you'll get to do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the only thing I would fear is I'd go to the store and I'd walk up to the area where the book would be, and I'd look to somebody and say, "That's my book," and then they'd say like, well, "That book's trash," something like that. Oh, okay, so that's fine. No, but yeah, no, that's definitely something I'm very much looking forward to. That, and I desperately want issue 1 for sure, and I really want the trade, because I would just love to put that on my shelf with all the other trades I have. So
just put it up there with the comics and kind of go, that's mine though. Like I wrote that, and like that must be a really good feeling to have. And you know, I'm glad you're getting that, but I'm also glad you got the early release with the Comic-Con digital as well, and have gotten to kind of share it with everybody, because honestly, it's amazing. I'm glad, and I think that's the thing. It allows it to have a different impact, that people can go and get the first 8 issues as well.
No, it's true. Like, anybody can get it right now, and I think, and I think you guys said it too, it's like you get a pretty good chunk of story, and it does have a bit of a satisfying conclusion that makes you want to continue. Hopefully. And it gives you, I think it's a good enough insight to what the book is and what it can be, if anything. And it like I keep saying, if it keeps doing well, then we'll be able to continue, and that'll be really good, because then we'll finally get to those big moments that I really want to get to.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I really hope you get to do those moments. Absolutely thoroughly have enjoyed this, and
that's legitimately my number one fear. Like, they're like, it's done. It's like, but wait, we didn't explain everything.
I have all this.
Yeah.
Don't worry, if that ever happens, we'll get the GoFundMe up and running, and we'll get it finished.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we'll just release an omnibus. It's like,
just release the whole thing one go.
Yeah, it's like issues 1 through 20, and then an entire omnibus. That'd be funny.
There you go, have that up on your shelf, you know. But I think that's a good place for us to kind of wrap it up, unless there's anything else you wanted to ask Nitro before we kind of finished up.
No, I'm good. I think we touched on everything I had. I really appreciate you coming on, Louis.
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. This was pretty cool. You guys seem really chill.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, this is really cool.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, man, this has been a blast having you and getting to talk to you about this.
Yeah, it was nice to talk about the book, like, freely. You know, I haven't been able to do that with anybody, and it's cool because, you know, like, you guys have never, you know, read it until now, so it's neat to see how actual readers are reacting to it. So it's good to see that it's hitting the points, or hitting the beats I want it to hit. So that's very cool.
Definitely. And like, I'm glad we were able to have you on and talk it, and, you know, anyone who's watching this, I'm going to throw it in chat one more time. If you're still here, you've heard a lot of the stuff that's going on, but trust me, it's still worth reading. It's still worth picking up, and it's less than $12, guys. They've got it on sale right now. Come on, what are you waiting for?
You've hung out for 2 hours. Come on, what's $12?
Yeah, go on.
Do this.
Click on that link. You'll take
what else are you gonna do, right?
Exactly. You have a quarantine to get through. We're trying to help you. This will be beneficial. Read this.
Yeah, you get to have a laugh, get to look at a Spirit King for a little bit. I mean, why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah, who wouldn't want that, you know?
There's a pretty goth girl in one of the issues. At least get that one.
Yeah, there you go. You got, you know, pretty goth girl in issue 5.
Yep.
Yeah, 5.
Oh, that itself is like a standalone issue. So yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah, there you go. It's like that'd be an interesting taste of someone reading issue 5 on its own. That would be such an interesting introduction.
I don't have any context.
What is this book?
But thank you so much for joining us, guys. As usual, you can follow us up on social media, everyone, and definitely check out Louis on social media as well. Keep updated on what he's doing.
Oh, wait, can I plug real quick?
Yeah. You plug. Go for it, man. Plug.
Once again, in case you haven't realized this, I'm Louis Southard, and you can find me on Instagram at Louis Southard, or on Twitter at Louis J Southard, because Louis Southard's taken there for some reason.
Yeah, that really confused me one time when I tried to tag you in a Twitter post, and I tagged some random dude that wasn't you.
Yeah, and then you can find all my work currently on Comixology or Amazon. So if you want to give it a read and get in on the hype and see what it's all about, then go do it.
Yeah, and if you really want that romance novel, I can post a link for that as well. Just need to ask.
I dare you to. Just when you post about this again, just say, like, we got romance novelist Louis Southard on the comic show. Don't even mention the comic book.
Oh, that's how we're introing it from now on.
Yeah, it's like no. I just got challenged there. I'm putting this link in the chat right now. I'm like, I'm not getting called out like that. For all of you romance fans out there who are looking for that new romance novel.
It is I.
Doom. I am putting this link in the chat right now, 100%. I'm going to put it in the YouTube comments as well. Just
go crazy.
There you go. Go to that Amazon link that I just.
You awoken beast.
Yeah, I opened Pandora's box. It's my fault.
By the way, see if you get a massive boost in sales for that romance novel. Everyone just decides, yeah, let's go check it out. That looks fun.
Yeah, why not?
But honestly,
I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah, but thank you so much for being on the show, Lewis. It's been an absolute
Thanks again,
blast
man.
having you on. It's been so much fun just to get to talk and get to know you. Actually, been messaging back and forward for feels like months now that we've been doing it, but
Pretty much a month, yeah. But when more comes out, I'd love to come back on and we could talk more. If you guys
yeah,
are up for
absolutely.
it.
I'd love to have you coming back on and talk more about Villain Seeking Hero and about Midnight Western Theatre as well. I'd love to talk to you about that when it drops as well. And we can do a book club when we read your romance novel as well, because me and Nitro are going to go buy it as well.
That'd be great.
100. See, when we hit a milestone, that is so an episode we have to do is talking about your romance novel. Like, if we hit like so many subscribers or something, that has to be something we do.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
But yeah, we would love to have you back on, man, and
Yeah,
we will
absolutely.
we will keep plugging the book and keep telling people about it because I honestly love it. I absolutely adore it.
Well, I hope you guys will enjoy the rest of Volume 2, and I think you will. You guys said you're both married. I think the next issue it's gonna be like it's a nice husband and wife issue. So
Okay, so we should
I'm
relate
sure
pretty
I'm
well
sure-
to that then.
yeah. It's like if you've ever been in like in a relationship, you'll get how these characters are acting. So that'll be cool.
Oh, and just on those issues, do we have an idea when we'll be seeing those issues? Like when the last part of Volume 2 will be coming out? Will that be? Will we see that online, or that just be whenever it releases?
It'll be whenever at this point. Just because of what's going on, the company's just kind of like
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no worries. I was just wondering, like, because the first half of the volume had dropped, if there was talks about dropping the second half of it. But no, that's absolutely fine. But everyone, go check it out and have a blast. Lewis, it's been great. All right, everyone, we are going to sign off. If you want to see the
thanks
show,
for watching, everybody.
yeah, if you want to check us out again, or if you've missed part of it, this will be going up on YouTube at some point this week, and probably Tuesdays usually when I get it up there. But yeah, go ahead and follow Lewis on his social media that he gave you. Definitely keep up with what he's doing. I guarantee you will not be disappointed in it. But take care, guys. Have a great day.